Welcome, willkommen, dobrodošli. My name is Nadia Polzer and I am host of the TEDx GloCha Countdown event. We are here in Klagenfurt-Zehlowitz, the capital of the most southern province of Austria, Carinthia, which has in German the name Kärnten and in Slovenian Koroška. In order for all of us to arrive mentally here in Kärnten, Koroška, Carinthia, let's watch together some short video clips that have been prepared in the context of today's celebration of the 100th anniversary of the post-World War I referendum, in which both ethnic groups in the country decided to live together as partners in Austria. Throughout the past centuries, the people living here faced challenges due to past conflicts between two ethnic minorities, which were solved by the willingness of those people to work together to overcome them and build a better future and a good life together. The slogan of the referendum anniversary is Carinthia. In this sense, today's event is also a Carinthia event, with the organizers saying "Ja," yes, to shaping the future of the world together with unity in diversity and with an open mind for new partnerships, new ideas, and new technologies. So the common vision of the TEDx Countdown, as well as the initiative Carinthia, is to embrace challenges and the anniversary of one of the biggest challenges of our province as opportunity to rethink and reorganize. Yeah, today we are here. Today we are here in the premises of the Association of Carinthian Slovenes, Skupnost Koroških Slovenk in Slovencev, which is also hosting the office of IAAI GloCha, a United Nations accredited civil society organization, which is organizing this TEDx GloCha event. Miro Polzer, the founder and initiator of today's event, would you tell us more about it, the aims of this TEDx event?
Thank you very much, Nadia. Welcome, everyone. Dobrodošli, willkommen here from Carinthia, Koroška, Kärnten, from our celebrations of the 100th anniversary of the referendum. And you can see here behind us somehow the visualization of our concept and message of today's event. We are holding this GloCha TEDx event in the framework of a global campaign for climate action, which is organized by this big platform TED, and they want to really get everyone engaged in climate action, becoming aware that this is really the biggest challenge of our time. And in order to get this awareness of a global challenge, which signifies this first image, really to translate into action and in impact on the local level, we have here, and the whole TED Countdown event has local events all over the world, about 500 events, and one of them is here in Kärnten, Koroška, and we have wonderful people here who are feeling also that times are changing, climate changes really. We have storms that we have never experienced before. We have droughts, everything. And we are also solidary with people in other places of the world where the consequences, the effects of climate change are even bigger. But people very often feel that they don't know what to do about the crisis, and also how to turn the transformation to a climate neutral society, which global community has agreed upon in the Paris Agreement and the European Union, the European Green Deal, how to play our part as an individual, as a young person especially. And there we come to the third part, which is GloCha. It's a new initiative, it's some kind of movement. In UN terms, it's a multi-stakeholder partnership where civil society, United Nations organizations, universities, companies, cities, all come together and work on these issues to provide a good life for all in a collaborative effort. And this is new, and this needs new thinking, and it needs also tools that support everyone. And there we have a new solution. It's called crypto stamps. Our organization is embedded in the network Climate Change Coalition. It's 200 experts on blockchain technology, digital innovation for climate action. And there we have developed a tool which will help people to have on their mobile devices support to take the right decisions in consumption, in financial matters, in organizing communities. And I will talk about this a little bit later. So again, the framework of this really making people aware that climate change is the biggest topic of our time now, and it will be even more so in the future. And the second part, it needs to be localized. We need to reach the people here on the ground, also in different languages. And then GloCha, we are claiming to be the pathfinders for the world, the bridge builders who will enable a good life and future-proof societies with our digital tools. And with this, I turn back, and I'm happy and grateful that you have joined us, and that we, to all our partners and speakers already ahead of time, a great thank you. And now back to Nadia. Thanks also for your valuable contribution.
Jaroslav Bojca, thank you very much for your inspiring words. So we can think globally, but we can act only locally. The following video shows the choir Danica and Lake Turnasee, people and places to which today's organizers have a particularly close relation. The song you are going to hear now is a song about home, the place we love and care for. I would now like to introduce to you our local partner of today's event, Franz Tomasic, from the PR company iLab. Pozdravljam, Franz Tomasic für današnjem eventu. Lieber Herr Tomasic, als Kärntner Unternehmer haben Sie sich schon früh mit Chancen und Herausforderungen der Digitalisierung in unterschiedlichen gesellschaftspolitischen Bereichen auseinandergesetzt. Erzählen Sie uns, wie Sie die Rolle eines gemeinwohlorientierten Unternehmers in einer globalisierten Welt anhand der gegenwärtigen Herausforderungen sehen.
Nette Dobaran, herzliches Grüß Gott aus Klagenfurt. Ich freue mich sehr, dass ich heute Gast sein darf und Partner sein dieser großartigen Initiative. Unsere Firma, die Firma iLab Media, beinhaltet ja schon im Namen das I sozusagen für Ideen, für Innovationen und das Lab für das Laboratorium. Und wir bemühen uns schon 20 Jahre, an der Schnittstelle zwischen den analogen und den digitalen zu wirken. Ich persönlich bin überzeugt, dass jetzt ein ganz großer Umbruch ist. Wir sind mitten in einer digitalen Transformation. Und ich bin überzeugt, dass wir ganz große Chancen haben, jetzt hier in unserer Region. Und es gilt natürlich für viele Themen. Federführend natürlich wird die Klimasache sein, aber ich sehe auch noch ein großes Potenzial für gesellschaftspolitische Ansätze. Und ich glaube, dass uns die Technologie in Zukunft hier helfen wird. Und in diesem Sinne würde ich sagen, wir feiern heute 100 Jahre Volksabstimmung. Andererseits schauen wir 100 Jahre voraus. Und ich bin eigentlich zuversichtlich, dass wir auch die ganzen Herausforderungen in Zukunft mit der технологии lösen werden. В tem smislu se vam vsem prav lepo zahvaljujem in želim lepo konferenco. V tem smislu hvala lepa še enkrat, Nadja, za pogovor.
Hvala lepa, Franz Tomažič. Thank you very much from Franz Tomažič from iLab. And from our partners, I would now like to turn our heads into the future. Now, more than ever, we are seeing worldwide movements of young people leading the lead in climate action. I would now like to introduce to you youth voices who are speaking to us on the state of the world from their point of view. Very warm welcome to Rebecca Hardenbrook and Ali Mustafa from Generation Next Youth Network.
Thank you so much for having us. Hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca Hardenbrook. I am a climate activist in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I am so honored to be speaking with you today here alongside my good friend Ali. Since I was born onto this earth just 24 years ago, 19 conferences of parties have occurred, and 9 major international climate agreements have been made. But still, since I was born, the planet has warmed to almost 1 degree Celsius above the normal. 3 species have gone extinct, with more thought to be extinct or to be at risk, and the number of climate-related natural disasters has nearly tripled. Since I was little, I have watched on the news and in my backyard the different ways in which our planet, our home, is destroyed by the climate crisis. I have watched wildfires, more frequent and severe, tear through mountains and sagebrush. I have watched over the years as the Great Salt Lake, which is here in Salt Lake City, has dried up, causing an imbalance in our water system, causing a shorter snow season in the winter. I have seen the pollution of my city choke my neighbors, yet we continue to drive our cars, refine our fossil fuels, and go on with our ways. I have watched many important decision makers stand by, and instead, young people have risen up, have taken to the streets, and have demanded that the necessary actions be made immediately. We must continue this fight against climate change. And to do so, we must each accept that the threat of climate change is the greatest threat to the earth, to humanity, and to our individual communities that we have or will ever see in our lifetime. I do believe that most of the youth have indeed accepted this as their generation's challenge, as our generation's challenge. And what is my evidence for this? Well, despite a global pandemic this year and the fear of getting sick, thousands of young people all around the world have continued to host rallies calling for true urgency in climate action. Even more thousands of young people have attended environmental or climate change-related conferences and events, which have been held virtually and have connected more concerned youth over their shared efforts. I have attended both these rallies and these virtual conferences, and I can say that there is a renewed and young energy that is different. And I believe only that energy, that power that the youth has can save our planet. I think it is appropriate to say that young people are inspired by the efforts that are made globally when it comes to climate change and climate action. But the fact is that some of those that have signed on to different agreements are not hitting the milestones that they agreed upon. We no longer have 50 years to implement slow change. We now have maybe closer to 10. So what is the solution? What do we do? In these most pressing times, how can we do something so big as to prevent climate destruction? I believe that the youth are truly the solution. Young people have been the drivers of great change throughout our history, and now is no exception. Young people must be in offices of power. They must be at decision-making tables. They must be our leaders in our most important governmental and organizational spaces. Young people are knowledgeable, educated, considerate, and capable. We know and deeply understand the urgency of climate change because we have always lived with it, looming around the corner. And now that the crisis is upon us, we must dare to imagine a life without it. We must dare to carry this fight on our shoulders individually and collectively into a new era of climate action where we are the leaders. The easiest way, as you've heard this morning and you'll hear throughout, to begin taking action is to start locally in your city or your state or your province. As someone who lives there, you know best what issues are most affecting the people and the environment around you. Find people who are already working on these issues, or begin a project yourself and invite others to work with you. For example, here in Salt Lake City, we're seeing the development of an inland port, which will cause great destruction to our local environment, our watersheds, the animals that live there. It will wreak havoc with our air quality as well. And many young people at my university, including myself, are taking up the task of opposing that inland port, finding ways in which we can do so within our local government and weaving into those spaces. We also had a large amount of land in southern Utah that was up for sale for oil and gas companies. And we wanted to see that land be kept sacred. We wanted to see that land be maintained in a proper way. And by very publicly opposing that land deal, we were able to stop it. So there are ways that you can make a great change just in your local area, such as those. My friends, we must fight for each other. And to do so, we must each accept responsibility in pushing back against the crisis. I hope that you will take action today, at whatever scale that may be, with the millions of youth around the world, including myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. And thank you, everyone. Hello from New York to all of the team that's in Austria, and to the people who are watching us live from all around the world. I would like to continue from where my colleague Rebecca left. She was speaking about the time and then precedented time that the world is in right now. Today, there are 1.8 billion young people all around the world, which makes around 20% of the world's population. This population is under 24 years of age, but there is a large number of population that is below 35 also, below 34 years also, below 32 years also. So if we include that population, that makes around 27 to 28% population of the world. This is a large number of population. From the Network of Generation Next, in collaboration of the IAI GloCha, we have created this network to mobilize young people. Now, question arises, we are going to mobilize young people for what purpose? We are trying to mobilize young people, not just mobilize, we are trying to mobilize them, we are trying to organize them to take actions for climate change, not just take actions. We are trying to empower them with the proper tool, proper skills, proper education, and the proper things that are needed. We are trying to equip them with the skills that are needed to progress in the world, to move forward in the world with the skills that are needed to save the world right now. We are witnessing the climate change that is taking place since many, many years. It's too sad to see that people are started to take seriously just now. We really hope that people should have taken climate change serious earlier, but it's never too late. And this is what is the aim of Generation Next Network. We are trying to spread all around the world. We are trying to gather young people from all corners of the world. Either they are in Europe, either they are in North America, either they are in South America, either they are in Asia, either they are in South Asia, either they are in Australia, either they are in any part of the world. We are trying to reach them out. We are trying to uh, work with them. We are trying to create our networks in these local cities. Not just that, with the help of technology, we are trying to reach out the people, trying to reach out the youth that is in the remote areas, the youth that is not included somehow. We are trying to include the voice of every young person possible for us in the system, so that they can be part of this movement that we have started. We are very thankful for the IAI GloCha and Dr. Miroslav for all the help and support that he's been offering to us in making this network possible. We are working with the Department of Global Communications of United Nations. That's one of our key partner, and of course, the one of the most key partners are IAI GloCha. Recently, we have conducted high-level youth summit during the week of the 75th session of the United Nations General Assembly. And during that session, we discussed that youth discussed that they pledged for to take the action for the climate change, especially with the use of technology, especially with the use of modern technology. In these times, during the times of COVID-19, we have seen the rise of use of technology. We have seen the rise of inequality also. We are trying to address all of these issues on the level of young people. We are trying to make sure that every young person is included, and they're not being marginalized, and they're not being targeted due to inequality. And I request all of the people who are speaking today, and all of the people who are watching online, to join our network, help us expand it, so that we can carry out this mission and movement forward and make this world a safer place for everyone to live. Thank you.
Very much to Rebecca Hardenbrook and Ali Mustafa. Young people can have a powerful voice by using music. The Global Challenges Youth Music Contest is one of the most successful initiatives of GloCha. We will show you now a music video by Yinka Levinson Lamborghini, which is called United Nations Song. Enjoy.
So this is the only planet we have, and that's why I was very happy when Mario invited me to perform at the climate change concert in New York. I will support it, because we don't have a plan B. That means there is no other planet we can run to. So I am pleading with every one of us, both we, the younger ones, the older ones, those in powers, wherever you find yourself, don't just be a part of the conversation, but go beyond just talking. Be part of the solution to ensure that we achieve this climate change that we are crying for, because we don't have another home. This is the only home that we have. Thank you all very much. And I will just round up, by giving you an a cappella of this song that I wrote called United Nations. I'm not living without you. Don't you leave without me. We can shine bright together like the stars in the sky. If I fall, please pick me up, 'cause if you fall, I will pick you up. We are stronger together. We are one forever. 'Cause I am you and you and me. Together we are United Nations. I am you, and you are me. Together we are United Nations. Thank you very much for having me. I am you, you and me, and together we are United Nations. Go.
From youth, we will now switch to science. May I introduce to you GloCha Bogatay, one of the leading climatologists from the University of Ljubljana on a planet under pressure, and its scientific perspective, and following her, a contribution by Nebojša Nakicenovic from IASA on the digital transformation in a global perspective.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I would like to thank you at the beginning for the invitation. I really feel honored to talk about science, and actually my presentation, I will try to answer 3 questions through this presentation. So if you put the next slide. Well, I would like to go through 3 facts. Where are we? Where do we stand? The second one, of course, is why should we care? Because still people are not really, and they don't understand how close are we to the point of no return. And of course, there's still time to avoid dangerous impacts, but how? So the next slide, I just show you 2 important components of climate. We all know that temperature is rising, and year 2020 will be among 3 or 4 warmest years. So climate change is not stopping or reversing, but it's not just about temperature. It's also about water situation. And if every place in the earth is getting warmer, regarding water, we are not in the same boat. The orange places you can see on the lower panel are actually places where there's more drier conditions. There's only few winning states, if I may say so, like Argentina, part of US or part of Russia, Scandinavia, where they have higher temperatures, but at the same time more water. Majority people on this planet gets drier climate, and this is actually what is dangerous. And of course, climate change will get worse. It's already here, and if we don't take action, it will get worse. So on the next slide, we can just say that impacts are here. It's not something that will happen in the future, and these impacts are equally distributed among the poor and the rich, and on the north and on the south. And among these very serious effects, it's about extreme temperature, it's about sea level rise, ocean acidification, and of course, heavy precipitation, which are leading to the floods. So wherever you go, you are probably watching from all over the world, and I'm sure that in past 3 months, everybody of you experienced something extreme. We all experienced September, which was the warmest September ever. So on the next slide, if we still ask ourselves, where are we? Unfortunately, what must be done is to cut our emissions very soon and really in the big pace. So world should follow the yellow or the green line on the bottom. Yellow is the line that was actually signed by Paris Agreement, and the green line is something that scientists actually, we said it's much safer if we just go for 1.5 warming. Unfortunately, world is at the blue level. So countries are not prepared actually to follow what they promised in Paris Agreement. So national policies are leading us, current policies, to the world that will be more than 3 degrees warmer, which for Austria or Slovenia, we are neighboring country, I'm talking from Slovenia now. For our two countries, 3 globally means 4.5 already. So actually we have this huge gap between that what policy promised with the Paris Agreement and what actually they are delivering. On the next slide, let me compare or talk about something about probabilities. So what actually emission pledges from the countries show us, so what politics at the moment is prepared to do, means we have over 90% probability that we will exceed safe level of 2 degrees. Or even if we look at what is already occurring. So first of all, I was talking about promises, but what are they delivering at the moment? We are talking about 97% probability of exceeding 2 degrees. So politicians or business world is totally on the wrong track. So on the next slide, let me compare that with the Russian roulette. Russian roulette, maybe we should put some more. No, you go to the next slide, but click enter. So when somebody plays Russian roulette, it's very dangerous. Nobody wants to play Russian roulette, but actually probability to survive, it's quite high. Probability of survive is actually 83%. But to continue, if you just press enter, please. What I just said, again, maybe some enter to see the whole text. So actually what policy at the moment is playing with us, we have actually probability to survive only 3%. And nobody plays Russian roulette. So sometimes I really wonder how people can be so calmly, so uninterested in what is going on. And I deeply understand young people who are more educated, who are more prone to action, that they just go on and march. And this is the number I fully support any kind of movement. So the next slide. I would just like to reassure you, because I hear a lot of comments, well, we are now in the COVID situation, everybody stayed at home, we were in a state of the lockdown, so everything is fine. Emissions are going down already, and it's not quite true. In 2020, yes, emissions will be a bit lower, but far from what is needed. So please don't count that COVID situation or virus will save our climate, because it will not. Next slide, please. Why should we care? So let's take the next slide and see 5 tipping points, 5 human development tipping points. As a scientist, I really feel so, funny that in 21st century, our worry is, will we have enough food to eat? Will we have enough water to drink? So I feel like in the Middle Ages, but actually agricultural productivity is going down and water insecurity is rising. I already talked about extreme weather, but it's not just about humans. It's also about ecosystems. Without water, with extreme weather, many of the ecosystems cannot survive. Forests, for instance, cannot survive. And forests, for instance, in Austria or in Slovenia, are the main sink of CO2. But new diseases are coming and ecosystem may collapse. And all this together means that we will have increased health risks, not because of the COVID alone, but because of the climate change, especially in the countries where they are still developing the health systems. And of course, if you stay without food, you run out of the water and you experience extreme weather, what should you do? You just leave your home. So everything leads to the large-scale migration. or at least civil unrest and increased poverty. So this is actually much worse than just looking at the, I don't know, how some crops may fail. So this is actually the new world, which I don't want to be part of, in which I don't want to leave to our grandchildren or children. Next slide, please. So, what should we do now, immediately? Yes, mitigation is something that is urgent, and young people are talking about that, but I'm afraid that mitigation alone will not be enough. So we should start adapting in many areas, because even if we succeed with mitigation, climate change will still go on. So we will have to adapt, and we should be smart and try to find those actions which are actually at the same time mitigation actions and adaptation actions, all connected to the green infrastructure, all connected to the water conservation, is actually killing two flies with one blow. So please study adaptation as well, young generation. So mitigation, which is urgent. On the next slide, we can see some numbers. And these numbers, please take away messages home, because CO2 emissions have to decline now, not after 2030. If we don't use the next 10 years, it will probably be too late. It's about technology, but it's also about behavioral changes. Young generation can help, can set the examples, because older generation, we just enjoyed growth of many things, including material growth, which actually led us to the situation we are now in. And I think that behavior changes or behavioral are as much as important as technologies. We have to invest into the low carbon energy, but not as slow and a little money as now. I think we should at least increase this investment by a factor of 5. So at least 5 times more money. So it's about private initiative, it's about government, it's about European Union and the Green Deal. Maybe we could set an example for the rest of the world. And actually, it's extremely important that our electricity is carbon-free as soon as possible. By the year of 2050, coal had to decline completely, and renewables should represent majority of the source of the electricity. So these numbers are set by science, and please try to act accordingly. So let me wrap up. Next slide, please. Climate change is here. It is not something for our children and grandchildren. We are already experiencing it. It's going to get much worse, I'm afraid. So every year matters. Don't talk about 230, 250. Talk about today. Talk about 21. What should be done? And every choice matters. So it's not just about energy, it's about food waste, it's about transportation, it's about what I wear, what I buy. Actually, how do I act? Situation is critical. So we are rapidly approaching points of no return. So ambition has to increase substantially. We are still in a COVID situation. I know it is not helping right now, because many people are focusing on their health. But post-pandemic stimulus, every country is preparing money to get economy aboard, and this stimulus should be used directly to the climate change mitigation. It's unique opportunity because money is there. And let me conclude even with a broader thought. So we have to be serious about saving the planet. So this means not just coping with climate change, but we actually have to reduce resource consumption in general. Our generation was tending to maximize things. Next generation, or we, the changed generation, should emphasize optimization. And of course, again, let me say that without behavioral changes, we will be stuck somewhere in the middle. So thank you for your attention and thank you for inviting me. I hope you can share my thoughts among you. Thank you.
Now I'm handing the floor to Professor Nebojša Nakicenovic.
I'd like first to express a happy UN Charter Day. Today is a special day, and to share with you 5 key ideas and your information about.
I did have an opportunity to say a few words at this very important event.
For my sharing of these 5 ideas. The first one is that the that is the transformation of lives and people, places. And
ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to have an opportunity to say a few words at this very important event. On the
and do different for the next 75 years. That's the first key idea I'd like to share with you. And the second.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to have an opportunity to say a few words at this very important event on the occasion of the 100th anniversary of the Carinthia referendum. It is really important to look into the past because the history matters, but it is equally important to look into the future. And this is why I think that the title of this event is really appropriate, celebrating the future in times of climate emergency. As we, as humanity, have a choice collectively to seek and choose the future we want. And this is what my brief presentation will be about. So without any further ado, I would like to share my slides with you. And let me just start the presentation. I'll go straight to the first slide, which is actually a caricature to denote the importance of the climate emergency. As you all know, despite the major immediate threat of the COVID-19 to humanity, the climate is here, the climate crisis is here, as well as injustice, inequality, and ever-increasing pressure on the Earth systems. So the challenges are multiple, but there are also opportunities. And the opportunities are based on the fact that humanity has achieved a lot. So I would characterize that as humanity being at the crossroads. We have had explosive development of the economy, technology, and many other facets of humanity. At the same time, we are transgressing the planetary boundaries while billions are left behind. So this is why I denote that there's a crossroads. But just a few numbers. During the last 100 years, since the referendum in Carinthia, the life expectancy has doubled. This is incredible, from about 35 years to well over 70 years worldwide. That's an indication for huge progress. Since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, the economy grew 100-fold, energy 50 times, but also the carbon dioxide emissions about 30 times. But as you can see from this, we are ever better. We can generate $3 of value added per ton of carbon, per unit of carbon dioxide. Today, 3 times as much as we have done that at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. But there is also a price to pay for that. We are changing the climate. An indication is the global mean temperature that has increased well over 1 degree Celsius since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. At the same time, there is indoor and outdoor air pollution, primarily due to inefficient use of fossil energy and unabated emissions, and about 4 million people die prematurely every year from the indoor air pollution from cooking with traditional fuels, and another 4 million from the regional air pollution. So the time is one for transformative change. And I think this is offered to humanity by the 2030 agenda and its 17 sustainable development goals. I think that they will bring multiple benefits for the people and the planet. Now, you're probably all familiar with the 17 goals here. They're illustrated. I like this picture because it shows that there is no particular order. For example, look into the foreground, we have the goal 13, which is climate change, but it is clear that it's related very much to other goals. So what is important in my view is to understand the relationships, but most important, it is to understand where there are synergies, where we can have the multiple benefits of achieving the goals. And this is, of course, very, very complex. So in an activity called The World in 2050, and you can download our reports from the website you can see above, we have tried to simplify this complexity and have developed 6 transformations to a sustainable future for all, that if they can be achieved, we will be on the best way of fulfilling all of the 17 sustainable development goals. And I will not go into the detail because of the pressure of the time, but you can see, for example, energy and decarbonization really being important to lead toward avoiding dangerous climate change. But on top is the digital revolution. And that is, I think, one of the most important opportunities, but at the same time, also a threat to the humanity. So let me just illustrate to you what we mean by that. What one needs to do in achieving these 6 transformations is to achieve not just the basic needs, but decent life for everybody. And that's illustrated in this figure. On the horizontal axis, you have the human well-being, and on the vertical, you have provision of some of the services. Now, until now, usually the discussion is about achieving basic needs. That means minimum food, minimum material well-being, and so on. But we argue that what is required is decent living, more than basic achievement. At the same time, there is a parallel problem of overconsumption. Obesity, for example, is a good example. So sufficiency and decent living go together. And this should be the objective of the long-term development. And that can lead us to sustainability to 2030 and hopefully also beyond. But our conclusion is that this is not just an economic or technological fix. This is a true transformation that will require new values, new norms, perhaps new morality and ethics. So that's the challenge ahead of us. Now, let me illustrate a historical example that shows that digital revolution can help achieve those goals. What you see here on the top is a Motorola, the first GSM telephone launched by Motorola in 1992. Perhaps you can see it. I kept my phone. It is affectionately called the Brick. And today, the smartphones, 30 years later, essentially everybody in the world has a phone. Smartphones are about 100 times cheaper and use about 5 watts of energy. In the middle, you see the analog devices that they replace, and the energy requirement of those analog devices would be 100 times larger. And yet the smartphone provides also many more services. But not only that, the material requirements would be about 25 times lower. So with no changes in the energy system, our emissions would be about 100 times lower for the same unit size. So this is the huge opportunity of the digital age. Just to give you a few examples, last year at the University of Tel Aviv, with the 3D printing, a human heart was produced. You can see here in the picture, with human tissue, human blood, and so on. It is a model, smaller slide, and non-functional, but it gives you a perspective of what could be achievable. Also in medicine, soluble capsules that can deliver medicine and do diagnostics. But there is a danger. For example, one that really scares me are the autonomous weapons. Who will be able to govern? How can we socially steer that? And things like exoskeletons that could help everybody, but they were, of course, also produced for the military purposes. So let me come to the end of my very brief presentation, also based on the world in 2050. So I've argued that the world is at the crossroads. The achievement of the 2030 agenda is possible, but requires accelerated action and transformative pathways for sustainable development. The COVID-19 pandemic is a great threat to humanity, but it also provides an opportunity for change and innovation towards sustainability if the trillions that have been pledged from building back would be used for building forward to a sustainable society for everybody. And then, as I've shown you, the digital technologies, this is true of all of the kind of granular, small size technologies innovation. They together generally have faster adoption and diffusion, so they can enable rapid change. These are things like photovoltaic cells, for example, other digital technologies, but they will require sustained development, investment. So the challenge is huge, but there are also opportunities. And with these words, I would like to close my brief presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Nakicinovic. And now, last but not least, I'm sorry, we are learning to handle new technologies, especially now with COVID. So last but not least, in our blog on the state of the world, I want to introduce to you John Crowley of the UNESCO Management of Social Transformations Program, who will highlight the need for new ethical standards for civic engagement, the good life, as the basis for a transformation to climate neutral and just societies. What is a good life and what is a good community in times of climate emergency?
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Pleasure to talk to you this afternoon from Paris, but this is a global event, so everyone's connecting from somewhere. I listened with great interest to the previous two presentations, with which I completely agree. And indeed, there's not an awful lot to be added to them, because in addition to laying down a very clear scientific and technological basis, they also said a lot about what the conditions for action are. And in particular, I'd just like to echo the points, the two key points that I took from the previous presentations, and to affirm my agreement with them, which is first, the questions are about now. Of course, the future matters in terms of how we think about the future in order to determine what it's reasonable to do now, but action is now. And secondly, small-scale steps do matter. And indeed, many of the quick effective steps to make a real difference to energy systems, for instance, which were mentioned, are steps that are not necessarily dramatic, because dramatic steps take time. They need to follow an infrastructure cycle that is decades long. But at the same time, there are things that can be done quickly that can make a real difference. Let me just take one example, and then I'll come back to the core of my presentation, which is the ability to reduce unnecessary consumption of electricity just by deploying existing digital technologies developed for that purpose. The problem isn't the technology, it exists. The problem isn't consciousness of the problem, it exists. The problem isn't social or institutional obstacles, because this is a win-win approach. Reduce consumption, avoid investment, save people money. The only problem is creating a framework for deployment. And that's being done, of course, by people who work on this, but a bit of a push in terms of awareness raising and consciousness of the potential can make a significant difference. And savings, as you know, from these kinds of technologies are typically between 10 and 30% of initial electricity consumption, just by eliminating unnecessary consumption. We're not talking here about reducing electricity-driven well-being. That's a separate issue. So what in that context, and again, I completely endorse everything that's been said at the scientific and technological level, at the systems level, should we think about in terms of a good life, and how does that connect to a good community? If we were in an academic setting, we would probably start with the ancients. We could have a whole seminar about Socrates, Confucius, and the Buddha in terms of how their conceptions of good life reflect to their conceptions of what a good community looks like. I don't think it's necessary to do that. I don't have time anyway. But keep in mind what the implications of that kind of approach would be. And keep in mind in particular what I think is the key point in any ethical framework, which is what I will call for these purposes the ethics of foreknowledge. Ignorance isn't an excuse. There are ethical issues that arise from the need to act in the absence of any knowledge about what the consequences of your actions might be. But with respect to climate change and other forms of environmental pressures, and as mentioned, pressures on water systems or on biodiversity, partly related to climate change, partly having other drivers, are just as important and potentially just as problematic. We are not in that situation of ignorance. We know a lot about what has happened, what is happening, and what might happen. And the whole point is might. There are things that would happen if nothing was done about it, that could be avoided if something was done about it. And that's the ethical challenge, a very simple one that is non-specific and goes back to the oldest writings in moral philosophy. Because we know, certain duties arise from what we know. The difficulty is how to connect that to the individual level and to the community level. And in this respect, I'm struck, like many of you, I'm sure, by an unhelpful tension in public debate between a purely top-down approach and a purely bottom-up approach. The top-down approach is an approach in terms of global targets, thresholds, cumulative action to be taken. It's a technocratic framework, it's science-driven, it's entirely correct as far as it goes, but it's shown its lack of capacity to produce tangible action. To borrow a phrase from the British sociologist of science, Steve Rayner, in homage to him since he passed away recently, the Kyoto Protocol was always the wrong trousers. The Wrong Trousers is a Wallace and Gromit film. You may know it. He used that as an amusing way of indicating that we lost an enormous amount of political capital, energy, and effort on trying to enact a protocol which produced very little and was always the wrong protocol to start with. By contrast, the individual level doesn't seem to offer the right kind of leverage either. Of course, each of us in our own life, on the basis of our values, our commitments, our knowledge, and our beliefs, can make a difference to how we live. But there's no guarantee that will add up. If there aren't enough of us doing it, if we do it in an uncoordinated way, if we do it perhaps based on misinformation about what really matters, we might end up either having no impact or even making certain aspects of the problem worse. What connects the technocratic level and the individual level is that in-between level of informed collective action, which is about creating social mechanisms for the circulation of information and action potentials, based on values, of course, but not necessarily based on any kind of uniform agreement on what the values are or should be. On the contrary, there will very legitimately be different ways of envisaging these issues, different moral frameworks to make sense of them, and of course, different action frameworks within which various kinds of people need to act. The challenge is not to get everyone on the same page, because that's never going to happen and probably wouldn't be desirable anyway. The problem is to get people on different pages working together systemically to produce a collectively valuable output, not necessarily working together through the same action frameworks. Why should they? Why shouldn't there be multiple valuable attempts to achieve good results? But what ties all of this together is new ways of circulating information. How would you know as an individual? How would you know as a community group, in dialogue perhaps with other community groups, that what you've done makes a positive difference and contributes to the desired aggregate output that needs to be achieved. And for that, we don't just need science, indispensable though it is. We need ways of mediating between the scientific knowledge we have and what it means for the lives people live. And in that respect, of course, we're in a slightly different position than the ancients, though even they, as you know, were very concerned to connect knowledge of the world, knowledge of the cosmos, knowledge of natural processes, to the ways in which it would be meaningful and sensible for individual humans to live their lives. And in that respect, I find extremely interesting and look forward to listening to the discussion about it later in this conversation, the ideas developed by GloCha, by Miro in particular, with his various partners in the blockchain community for new ways of certifying action as valuable. And the certification process requires two things. It requires first a body of knowledge that is operationalized and contextualized so as to identify in a credible way, a transparent way, a way that has some authority, that certain things done are valuable. And then secondly, it requires a process by which those things can be recognized. Recognized not just for the individual in terms of being able to look at oneself in the mirror and say, I did a good job, I tried, but also recognized in terms of the community, which indeed will be constituted by this mutual recognition as a contribution to the common good of that community. And that ultimately is the connection we're looking for. Something that makes compatible the conditions where I as an individual can feel I've done the right thing, and the conditions where the community as a whole can recognize its members as engaged in different ways, through different channels, with different sets of values, in actions that will collectively contribute to the common good. Technology doesn't provide all the answers. A lot of very old technologies, such as talking together, meeting, exchanging in writing, arguing and disagreeing, will be extremely important to this community building process. But there are new technologies that provide opportunities for new modes of certification that can tie together that process of self-recognition and mutual recognition with the process of serious certification of what really matters in terms of achieving aggregate outputs. With that, I will stop. My time is up. But I hope that will help bridge the discussion about the science that was given by previous speakers and the necessary discussion about the action potentials that will be coming in the next phase of this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, John Crowley. Climate emergency manifests also in Carinthia. Deep transformation is needed to reach a good life and to harness the economic potentials of transformation to low and zero carbon societies. There is a need for bridge builders, a need for dreamers, for people who think anew, and doers who build a better world. Let's listen to Mladinsky Zbor Danica singing about the power of dreams, and then let's listen to globalization and digitalization pioneers from Kärnten, Koroshka, Carinthia.
Wenn du lachst, ich kann alles, was du machst und weißt, wovon du träumst. Wir folgen unserem Stern durch die tiefste Dunkelheit. Ein Ziel ist uns zu fern, denn wir gehen den Weg zu zweit. Träume sind stärker als das, was uns hält. Menschen, die träumen, verändern diese Welt. Träume sind stärker als Kälte und Gefahr. Wenn Menschen träumen, noci scusi, verità, Vichnamani Pradaj, se skupaj bodimo, sanje močnejše so od resničnosti. Tisti, ki sanja, tako svet spremeni, sanje močnejše so od nevarnosti. Kadar ti sanjaš, čudež se zgodi, Träume sind stärker als das, was uns hält. Menschen, die träumen, verändern diese Welt. Träume sind stärker als Kälte und Gefahr. Denn Menschen träumen, werden wunderbar. Menschen träumen, werden wunderbar.
Now I am delighted to invite Hansi Tomasic, our event partner, to present his new thinking for our province, Kärnten, Koroška, Carinthia.
So, warten wir mal, bis das Mikrofon ist hier, dann gleich was.
Einen schönen Gruß aus.
Sagen wir ein herzliches Gott, wenn wir gute Leute durchstehen, natürlich auch nach morgen.
Prisrčno pozdravljeni. Einen schönen Gruß aus St. Veit im Jauntal, aus dem Homeoffice, hier in einem Ort 30 Kilometer östlich der Landeshauptstadt Klagenfurt-Zelowitz. Die Gegend ist touristisch geprägt und wir haben mit vor allem eine kulturell sehr vitale slowenischsprachige Volksgruppe hier. Der Kulturverein Danica ist kärntenweit einer der profiliertesten Kulturvereine mit einem hoch anerkannten Spitzenchor. Ja, Karkschnopper Leto. Ja, das ist wohl ein besonderes Jahr für Kärnten, obwohl sich wohl das offizielle Kärnten den heutigen Jubiläumstag etwas anders vorgestellt hat. So ist es noch einmal anders gekommen. Alles ist hier jetzt ohne Massen, die Feiern sind kleiner, aber vielleicht bleibt gerade deswegen mehr Platz für das Wesentliche. Vielleicht bekommt man mehr Gespür für die schon längst eingeläutete Zeitenwende. Und der Kern, die Botschaft der Ereignisse vor 100 Jahren, sehe ich vor allem in einem. Es war ein Akt der Selbstbestimmung. Nicht die Kriegsherren, nicht die politischen Ränkespiele haben entschieden, sondern jede einzelne Stimme draußen in den Tälern. Wie will ich, dass mein Leben verläuft? Was ist wichtiger für ein gutes Leben? Für mich, meine Familie, meine Kinder. Man musste sich entscheiden und die Entscheidung hatte Folgen. Für sich, für eine ganze Gemeinschaft, für Generationen. So eine Entscheidung gibt es nicht alle 100 Jahre. Und es war alles andere als selbstverständlich, dass man gefragt wurde, als nach dem Ersten Weltkrieg in Europa die Grenzen neu gezogen wurden. Aber im Kleinen gibt es in unserer individualisierten und hochtechnologisierten Welt hunderte kleine Volksabstimmungen. Wie wollen wir leben? Wie werden wir leben in unserer sich rasch wandelnden Welt? Und aus den vielen Tausenden und Abertausenden Entscheidungen der Konsumenten, Arbeitnehmer, Bürger, verdichtet und bündelt sich eine große Volksabstimmung. Wir nennen es Trend, Zeitgeist, aus dem neue gesellschaftliche und politische Bewegungen entstehen. Und auf einmal ist sie hier, die Zeitenwende, der Paradigmenwechsel, die große Veränderung. Geschah das früher 1- bis 2-mal im Leben einer Generation, beschleunigt die Digitalisierung den ständigen Wandel in einem bisher noch nie dagewesenen Tempo. Das Internet, das Smartphone, all das gibt es sozusagen erst seit gestern und schon steht sie vor der Tür. Die nächsten Boten der digitalen Revolution. Big Data, das vernetzte Internet der Dinge, autonomes Fahren, künstliche Intelligenz, Robotik, Telemedizin etc. All das ändert grundlegend unser Leben. Hier sehen Sie eine Untersuchung, wie künstliche Intelligenz unsere Arbeitswelt verändern wird. Was wird wichtiger, was wird unwichtiger? Welche Berufe werden überhaupt überleben? Das löst Ängste aus, stößt auf Widerstand, aber alles deutet darauf hin, dass diese Entwicklung unumkehrbar ist. Also ist es rational und wichtig für sich selbst, aber auch für uns als Gemeinschaft zu erkennen, was hilft mir, diesen Wandel zu meistern. Und da glaube ich, so bin ich überzeugt, hilft vor allem eins, die Einstellung, die man zu den Dingen hat. Das Mindset, das einen hilft zu erspüren, wann der Tipping Point kommt. Und hier muss ich sagen, das allererste, was wir wohl lernen werden müssen, ist, dass unser bisheriges Lebensmodell, sprich Erziehung, Arbeitsleben, Ruhestand, so nicht mehr möglich sein wird. Die neue Realität in einer Welt, wo viele Aufgaben von Maschinen und Robotern geleistet werden, wird heißen, wie finde ich meinen Platz und meine Aufgaben in der Gesellschaft und das immer wieder neu. Nicht nur einmal fürs Leben, sondern alle 5 bis 10 Jahre. Wobei dann nicht nur die klassische Erwerbsarbeit zählen wird, sondern genauso gemeinnützige Arbeit im sozialen und kulturellen Bereich, die dann aber auch gesellschaftlich neu bewertet und honoriert werden wird. Die Grundlage dieser zeitlich immer kürzeren Wechsel ist unsere Bereitschaft, immer wieder neu zu lernen, neue Dinge auszuprobieren und das ein ganzes Leben lang. Dazu gehören dann aber auch Zeiten der Regeneration, des Sabbaticals, der Neuorientierung und das alles ohne Existenzängste, was früher oder später wohl auf eine Einführung eines Grundeinkommens hinauslaufen wird. Auf diese Änderungen gilt es sich also einzustellen. Deshalb finde ich so eine Initiative, wie sie heute mit GloCha vorgestellt wird, Goldes wert. Hilft sie uns doch beim Einüben, beim Ausprobieren des Paradigmenwechsels. Gerade heute und hier gilt, Kärnten und darüber hinaus der Alpe-Adria-Raum hat nämlich einige Assets, einige vielbeachtete Assets, die es gilt zu fördern und hervorzuheben. Es gibt dazu unzählige Aspekte. Ich will hier nur einige wenige aufzeigen, wo man mit ein bisschen Start-up-Mentalität die Möglichkeiten Kärntens für die Zukunft optimieren kann. Ich glaube, es gibt 3 große Themenfelder und ich blende sie hier mal ein, wo sich der Wandel entscheiden wird. Das ist einmal die soziale Frage, also alles rund um das Thema Arbeiten. Das wiederum ist eng verbunden mit der Frage der Mobilität und der Lebensräume. Dann natürlich die Klimafrage, die ja hier heute bei diesem Event in einem besonderen Fokus betrachtet wird. Und die Gesundheit, und da meine ich jetzt nicht nur die körperliche, sondern auch die seelische Gesundheit, deren Wichtigkeit sehen wir ja jetzt mitten in der Corona-Pandemie, was für einen hohen Stellenwert gerade die Gesundheitsfrage für uns alle hat. Beginnen wir also mit der Standortfrage. Und im Übrigen, ich glaube, es waren auch, nicht nur, aber auch geografische Gesichtspunkte, die die Volksabstimmung letztendlich vor 100 Jahren zugunsten Österreichs ausfallen ließen. Unbestritten ist ja, dass Kärnten landschaftlich sehr, sehr schön ist. Wie geschaffen für ein gutes Leben, würde man sagen, dort, wo viele Jahr aus, Jahr ein Urlaub machen. Und trotzdem beklagt das Land, aber auch und gerade die slowenische Volksgruppe den Brain Drain, die Abwanderung der Jungen. Das hat viel mit den jetzigen Arbeitsmöglichkeiten zu tun. Gerade die Corona-Krise hat aber aufgezeigt, dass ortsunabhängiges Arbeiten immer mehr State of the Art wird. Und so hat, glaube ich, Kärnten eigentlich zum ersten Mal auch im Arbeitskontext ganz neue Chancen bei gut ausgebildeten und hochqualifizierten Arbeitskräften. Außerdem bekommt das Land übrigens durch die Koralmbahn eine hochattraktive Anbindung an den Grazer und letztendlich auch an den Wiener Großraum. Deshalb finde ich, ist es für die Zukunft Kärntens extrem wichtig, wie die digitale Infrastruktur ausgebaut ist, denn sie wird wohl ein entscheidendes Spielfeld für die Zukunft des Landes sein. Und da ist mir letzte Woche die neu veröffentlichte europäische Statistik zum Glasfaserausbau in die Hände gefallen. Sie sehen hier, wo Österreich liegt. Das ist für mich ein überraschendes Trauerspiel. Dazu muss ich sagen, Österreich hat ein gut ausgebautes Mobilfunknetz, aber für ein zuverlässiges Arbeiten im Homeoffice ist, und das sage ich jetzt aus eigener Erfahrung hier in St. Veit, eine Festnetzanbindung und das womöglich mit Glasfaseranschluss von entscheidender Bedeutung. Hier ist also viel Luft nach oben und hier ist eine der entscheidenden Herausforderungen an die regionale Politik. Übrigens, da ich früher die Koralmbahn erwähnt habe, ich finde es sehr interessant, dass geplant ist, dass mit der Eröffnung der neuen Bahnlinie laut Masterplan des Landes auf der Trasse der jetzigen Bahn die erste Radautobahn also von Klagenfurt nach Wolfsberg geplant ist. Das ergibt natürlich einen interessanten neuen Gesichtspunkt für die beiden Räume, das Jauntal und das Lavantal. Und schon heute könnte man mit den Gedanken beginnen, wie schafft man im Einzugsgebiet dieser Strecke neue Hotspots, die moderne und gesunde Mobilität mit heimischer Kulinarik und den kulturellen Besonderheiten der Gegend, der Zweisprachigkeit, der Schönheit der Lieder, der Vielfalt lebendiger Kultur verbinden. Der unglaubliche Erfolg heimischer bäuerlicher Direktvermarkter in Corona-Zeiten zeigt doch, dass die Menschen bereit sind für neue Ansätze und Wege. Ja, sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, so könnte es also gehen. Eine intakte Natur, gesunde und heimische Lebensmittel, das sich bewusste Einlassen auf die Vitalität und Kreativität der Kärntner Künstler und Künstlerinnen, das Fördern der Buntheit und Vielfalt der Kultur, die Weichheit der Sprachen und des Liedes, das alles zu verbinden und ein Miteinander zu spüren unter europäischem Dach, im Bewusstsein, dass wir nur diesen einen Planeten haben, das ist, glaube ich, ein Weg für die Zukunft. So könnte der doch von vielen gefürchtete Paradigmenwechsel zur Wendezeit für ein besseres Leben werden. Es liegt an jedem Einzelnen von uns.
Thank you, Hansi Tomasic. The contribution was in German to point out the linguistic diversity of the local and the possibility of local people to get a part of this movement and to be involved in climate action. Also, the artwork you see, the banner you see behind me is the creation of Mr. Tomasic. Thank you as well for that. And finally, I am handing over the floor to yeah. Thank you very much. And now you will see a contribution of Sabrina Schiffer.
Everybody, I'm here at this beautiful Lake Wörthersee, Carinthia, in Klagenfurt am Wörthersee. Maria Loreto is the location. Maybe some of you know it who were here at the GloCha conference, the first which took place here in Carinthia, directly at this spot. And I want to talk today about how you can create your work from within, how you can create your project, your community projects, and dedicate the whole thing to a much broader vision. And this I want to refer to Pippi Longstocking. She, the girl who has a horse and a monkey and lives alone in a house with a treasure underneath. And she just says, for example, somebody asked her, "Did you do it before?" She says, "No, but this could work because I never did it." And from this perception, I want to show you that also trying new things, also if you talk about nature perception, preservation, how you can do things which you never did before, yeah. And for example, this lake behind us has drinking water quality, and it's just so pure and amazing to swim in there. I mean, in a lake full of drinking water, it's not not normal in this world that you have something like this. But for people who live here, it's normal, and sometimes they just don't see it anymore because they take it for granted. And this is mainly the main thing. You focus on the things which you value, and you value things. You have a treasure, and it's a value for you. I mean, Carinthia is not economically so much developed like, for example, Vienna, but it's in case of treasures, in case of, if you think about forests, if you think about life quality, it's just amazing to be here and to live here in this beautiful, in this beautiful place of the world. You may say there are other beautiful places. Of course there are. It's where you and your heart is. And for me, my heart is here, and I realize my project in this place. So I just want to say, just go there where your heart is and where you feel you can have an impact and you can create your projects. And since 11 years, we're doing projects in this region. We're doing different community projects, a lot of co-working conferences, co-working creations. And I really, really enjoy being together and creating something with other people. And I want to take the focus on this, how to create something, how this co-creation projects work out, because you have a space and you have somebody who provides the space. And this person really needs to be dedicated to this idea, what's going to be in that space. So also, if you have women and the womb and the baby starts to flourish in this womb, I mean, there is this woman you that has to nourish it and to see that it grows. And this this metaphor I want to just take, because there are spaces which are abandoned, which are not used. But if you just have if you take the focus on it, and if you have a vision for this space, then it can flourish and it can grow. And also in this new project of ours, it's called Bau, World of Wonders, Wunderwelten. We take the focus on different places, on different people, who inspire us with their life stories, but not to copy them, but to also find a way to create our life stories. And this is one point I want to remember you. It always is sad to think about his story. It's his story and not our story. So don't forget to live your story by yourself, and also create community projects or do what your heart goes for. And this is also one thing we are exploring in Bauwunderwelten. We just make the kids find out what their really life their life is dedicated to, what they love to do. And this is the path where you go to. You always follow your happiness. And this is also the second title of Wow World of Wonders, go where your happiness goes to. And we then created the happypreneurs. And yes, there are so many like layers of this concept, but the main focus is to also to preserve nature, to see what's around us, and also to use like the resources what we have in a special way, in a way that people are happy in living together, in also sharing things. And but they are having responsibility for themselves and for their things, so that not the responsibility goes somewhere else, but it stays within the communities. And this is one project here in Carinthia. What we are now doing, we are having a radio broadcast, and we organized also an organization. And this third thing is we have now a YouTube channel where we always show people in their world of wonders. Yes, and this is more or less what I wanted to share with you. I wanted to share with you my story, a little bit of our new project. I wanted to really inspire you that also Carinthia is really, really a great region to flourish, not just economically, but really from your heart, and also raising your kids. I mean, my son now is 3 years old, and I enjoy exploring the world with him. And well, this I wanted to share with you. Thank you for being here, and enjoy all your wow moments. Hello, everyone.
Thank you very much, Sabrina Schiffrer. Now we are coming to the third part of today's session, where we are discussing pathways and digital tools towards a good life and future-proof communities. I am now handing the floor to Miroslav Polzer, who will lead us through this session.
Thank you very much, Nadia. Welcome back, everyone. So we have heard in this first part of this countdown TEDx event today from scientists, from young people, that there is the time now for collective action and action of everyone. We have seen in the second session that there are really wonderful people, wonderful ideas, and really a lot of heart power and social energy here in our province in Carinthia. And now the third part is, how can we really find pathways towards a good life for all, and how can we create a future-proof communities? And for this, we are presenting our work with GloCha as a cultural, technological, and institutional framework for this kind of citizens' climate action empowerment and youth climate empowerment. And in this, our work, digital innovation is a key element. And in digital innovation, especially also blockchain technology and digital finance. And to give you an impression about what these new trends in these areas are and the new opportunities in this area are, we are going to show you a video from the Digital Finance Task Force of the Secretary General of the United Nations, which has presented its report only a month ago about people's money and how people can really have a new understanding of their power by really having digital finance tools at their hands. And now with this, please, Anna, Can you?
We're at a fundamental crossroads. Digitalization can advance us more rapidly in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, or it can deepen exclusion, divide us further, increase inequality. The choice is ours. For the first time, digital technology can put economic power into the hands of people, the people that own today's global financial resources. What if every citizen was empowered to make financial choices that support the SDGs and was able to ensure that every last dollar was spent on what really matters to them, family, community, their country, and the planet? Let's put citizens in the driving seat by enabling them to use their savings to finance their long-term development.
Increasingly, mobile platforms and data analytics are bringing sophisticated financial services to mass markets. Governments are digitalizing public finance, whilst a third of US public equity trades are now being carried out by computer-managed funds.
Digital technologies, which are revolutionizing financial markets, can be a game changer in reaching our shared objectives.
The UN
Okay, here we are again, and with the next point, with the next presentation, we are going to show you our network of partners, of competence bearers, of technological solution providers. And here we are delighted to have Alexei Shadrin from the company Evercity with us, who is also the leader of the climate finance team of the Climate Change Coalition, and our partner for developing digital climate action bonds and also crypto stamps, digital collectibles that I will explain, tell more about this. But Alexei will now make some kind of introduction about what blockchain technology is and what are the new opportunities that we have, especially also in the context of climate action. Alexei, welcome. Happy to have you with us.
Hi, Miroslav. Thank you for the introduction. Greetings to the people of Carinthia and all around the world on this Sunday day. So, we've been involved into climate projects and sustainability since 2011, and basing in Russia with the Russian Carbon Fund, which is my first organization. And we always wanted to, attract investment into green projects that people here are developing, and support these projects, and also support nature-based projects, forest restoration, and so on and so on. And one solution is climate finance, is special green investment related to green projects and their impact, which could be calculated, accounted for, and somehow sold to international buyers, investors, or domestically in the form of various assets, financial assets. And we came across a lot of problems with trust and transparency, because it was very hard to convince the buyers, corporations, that these small projects are making impact and that this impact is real. And the problem of trust here is a very, very big problem that prevents international impact finance flows from reaching the final destination, the last mile, those who are the most in need communities. Because it's great to see, big renewable energy projects, big, kind of infrastructure projects, but it's always better when, the money is flowing to where it is most needed. And this trust problem really is a huge problem there, which prevents this from happening. And in 2016, we started to look at new technologies, how they can solve this problem with transparency and accountability of impact, combat greenwashing. And we realized that blockchain is a technology that could really help to solve these issues, because blockchain is literally a global distributed database where the information which has been put there is stored on many computers around the globe and cannot be altered, cannot be changed once you put it there. And this is very useful for writing down all sorts of financial transaction data, who owns what, who pays to whom, and who is obliged to do something. So it's not a silver bullet, it's just another technology from the Industry 4.0 technological stack. But for the financial world, for the world of storing data, this is very useful. And the second use of blockchain is writing down contracts in the form of code. So we are all surrounded by a lot of paper stuff right now, right? A lot of contracts with your employer, with, I don't know, with some service providers, with the government. And it's now quite clear that with blockchain and smart contracts, we can transform all this paperwork into the code language and, somehow cooperate with all these stakeholders in a digital form using applications for your laptop, for your mobile, and not sign a lot of papers, a lot of contracts. Just use your crypto signature, use your mobile crypto wallet to sign various contracts with governments, with service providers, with anybody. And the third maybe feature that should be mentioned here, cryptocurrencies. It's the most popular feature, but it's not the only one, as stated already. And combining with the previous two features, this gives a lot of opportunities for the people-centric solutions. And these technologies are getting cheaper, they're getting more user-friendly, more comprehensible by the general audience, and they're literally coming to people. So you will not have to, write a lot of papers, sign a lot of contracts. This gives a lot of independence to people, to small businesses around the globe. And the whole combination of these technologies provide peer-to-peer economy, where we don't need any intermediary in the form of a bank, in the form of auditor, in the form of some other solution provider. We have an opportunity to share our value, our ideas, resources directly between people, between companies, between cities, and it all takes less money, less frictions, less transactional costs, and brings us closer to the world where we're all interconnected and using our resources and ideas efficiently in line with sustainable development goals. So you could find a lot of information about blockchain on the internet, just Google, and there are lots of articles, videos, explainers of various sorts. The information is there, you just need to collect it by yourself. You just need to want it very much, and then you will find it, you will learn it, because today the knowledge is also distributed within the internet. And with IAAI GloCha, we are doing great things also together with Climate Change Coalition and other global leaders in the field of digital technologies for SDGs and climate action. We are focusing very much on people-centric financial solutions, which are related to green bonds and related to digital crypto stamps. These are two little bit different topics. So first, I start with digital green bonds. Why we need digital green bonds and don't need regular green bonds anymore is that right now the green bond market is growing. You know, the green bond is a bond which is issued to finance green projects with CO2 reductions, with estimated, calculated, and verified climate impact, so to say. And now, while the market is growing, many issuers don't really make what they are obliged to, and not making the real impact, not making the climate reductions of CO2. They're just stating in their advertisement that they will use this money to fight climate change, but they are not making it and not proving that they really made some impact. So from the first part of my speech, you probably may understand that if we use blockchain to record all the information necessary about the bond, like who issued the bond, who helped to structure the bond, and who bought the bond, we will see it using this distributed ledger. We will see all the participants, and we will also see the obligations of the issuer also written down in blockchain, stored there. So the issuer of the bond will not be able to change their obligations afterwards. And also we can connect smart sensors, we can connect satellites to this system, and we can provide for automatic reporting, and also somehow connect the financial parameters of the bond with the impact parameters of the finance project. And if we make this connection, then we will make sure that the issuer of the bond really makes the impact he plans to, and he receives the money accordingly to the impact. This could really change the whole green bond market, making it more transparent, more fair. And also the system really is cheaper and opens the opportunity to issue green bond for small scale issuers, like small rural villages around the globe, and even maybe some households. So it really democratizes this space, and using blockchain, it's cheaper and faster to issue a green bond. And the last point will be related to crypto stamps, because blockchain also gives an opportunity to write down the information about non-fungible assets. And once the asset changes the ownership, it's written who held the ownership before. So it's also possible to store collectibles in a digital form on blockchain, and you could see the whole chain of owners and all the information you need about these collectible objects. This is now very rapidly developing area in art, and also in some other aspects which are also somehow related with art, with collectibles, and so on and so on. And together with Miroslav and GloCha, we are now developing the concept of a system where citizens and youth could make some impactful actions in the world, like plant trees, like help volunteer, and undergo educational courses related to sustainability. And then they could receive some digital stamp or digital badge for this action as a reward, and somehow compete with each other, who make the most impact, who get the most rewards in the form of digital stamps. It brings some gamification. It helps, to empower, to promote environmentally safe behavior. And youth, younger people, they can exchange these badges, these stamps, collect them, somehow play with them. And also this gives an opportunity to launch loyalty programs with corporations and governments, cities, anything. This could be really huge. And this is what actually Miroslav brought to the world, as his brilliant idea. We support it very much. We support it with technical assistance. And what we need now, I think, from the green bond perspective, we're doing some pilots now. We really want to do some pilots in Austria, maybe in Carinthia, and maybe it would be great to cooperate with some communities, with some renewable energy companies that are willing to experiment with such innovative ways of issuing green bonds, which are, by the way, mentioned by the UN Secretary General's task force final report on financing the SDGs with digital solutions. So it's not only our fantasy, it's something that UN really supports. And also it would be great to find ideas, to find supporters of the crypto stamp project, because I think that it's being designed for the youth, for the new generation, such as Generation Z. So we are not Generation Z with Miroslav. And I think it would be really valuable if more Generation Z people could participate and give insights how to develop this project, because it should be understandable. There should be a lot of gamification, and we really need everybody's voice and assistance here to launch and design this project. And I can assure you that this is something very interesting, that it gives a lot of knowledge that will be needed in the future years. And for me, I think it's something which is the most exciting thing that we can do. Technology, innovations, helping the world to be a better place. What could be better? So thank you very much. Big pleasure to be with you today.
Wonderful, Alexei. Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to have you as a technology partner in this endeavor. And the TEDx talks have the main idea and mission to present ideas that count, and really bringing ideas on the next level towards implementation. And therefore, we are here today focusing on the idea of crypto stamps. Here you find a crypto stamp issued by the Austrian post authorities last year. It was the first crypto stamp, and this year is already the second edition. And this is a digital collectible where people like they are using normal mailing stamps, putting them in their album, but this one has a digital twin, and the digital twin is in a digital wallet, and you can then add it to your digital collection. And so our work now is to really create multi-stakeholder climate action empowerment and incentivization as a crypto stamps collection game. And so that at the end you will have really a collection of badges, crypto stamps, non-fungible tokens in the language of blockchain technology, where it will be clear what you have contributed to climate action in your digital communities with your in-kind contribution, with your financial contributions. And now some people might ask, why should I care? Why should I engage in this? And therefore, I would like to invite you to engage in a thought experiment. So you imagine that you are standing in front of Heaven's Gate, and then Petrus comes out. In our background, there might be other versions in other religions, but somehow you will be asked after your life, what have you contributed to the common good? What would be the reason for any heaven authority to let you in? And then you might say, okay, I have built my house, I have had so many cars or so, and this will not get you into heaven. But if you would then show your GloCha crypto stamps collection on your mobile phone, which you will have there in front of Heaven's Gate, then this might bring you into heaven. And another image could also be that you imagine meeting a grandchild in the future, which would ask you, in light of all this climate emergency, what have you done? Did you react? Did you contribute to the fight against the climate crisis? And yeah, with this crypto stamps collection, this might be possible. And the next steps that we are taking, an important element is also this new thinking that everyone needs to be engaged. It's our moral obligation, as we've heard by Professor Nakicenovic and also by John Crowley. There's a need for new ethical approaches, ethical standards and values and norms. And I'm convinced that the new standard will be that everyone needs to aim to be climate neutral. And as our life, even by breathing, we are increasing our carbon footprint. We have a certain burden that we are putting with our emissions on the global society and future generations. And we have to find a way to compensate for this, to invest in our communities so that they are able to handle the negative consequences of our carbon footprint. And so there is the possibility now that we are creating with our carbon footprint compensation crypto stamps will be that you can invest, let's say, 1 ton. In the beginning, we are planning to have it for 50 euros. You are investing this money, you are receiving a crypto stamp, and with this crypto stamp, you receive also the voting right to manage a digital wallet where this money is going to minus a certain amount for GloCha for building the system and handling it. And this money can then be channeled with your decision. It can be channeled towards digital communities. Let's say one such digital community that we are creating here is the Canton Koroshka Carinthia community, which will also have local and thematic communities crypto stamps. And in this, when you decide to invest in this community, then with the other members of the community, you can then think, what is the good life and this future-proof society? What does it need to really flourish and to be climate safe, even if the climate crisis will get worse? What do we need to have in terms of water security, food security, education, and community infrastructure, and many more of these things? And by investing in this, you will be really able to have a track record of a good life. And at the other side, we will connect it also with tax systems, because like Austria has now on the national level, the aim to become climate neutral by 2040. And the national government will not succeed with this goal if the citizens will not engage as well. And therefore, I'm very much expecting carbon tax mechanisms which will reward citizens for their actions and for their emission reduction efforts. And with this blockchain-based tools which help to avoid manipulation, fraud, and which can help also to attribute actions and outcomes with these crypto stamps to individuals and their digital identities, at the same time handling also privacy issues. I'm convinced that this is the key to the future-proof societies and to a good life for all. And if you would like to be part of these pilot projects with the carbon footprint offsetting mechanisms and with digital, local, and thematic communities, please contact us with an email to office@glocha.info. And on Monday, coming Monday, there is an ICLE event from the International Consortium for Local Environmental Initiatives, which has a Daring Cities conference. They are bringing together cities that want to be pioneers on the path towards climate neutrality. And with them, as these cities have their own goals to become climate neutral, there are also partners that we expect who will work with us on the digital tools, blockchain-based, crypto stamps-based tools, and also digital climate bonds-based tools to have climate neutral cities and climate neutral citizens, and everyone kindly invited to join the efforts, and also especially if you are ready to invest your knowledge, your financial resources, and your work into this collective effort. It's GloCha is not only one new initiative, one new global institution. It is the big thing in climate action empowerment. We understand ourselves as some kind of next generation of the United Nations for non-state actors, and you're kindly invited to join us to invest in the success of our work. And with this, Nadia, would you like to say some concluding words, as you are more the Generation Z than I?
Thank you very much for the words and for handing over. And I just wanted to say, finally, thank you very much to everyone, to all of the speakers, to all of the contributors, to everyone who helped to make this happen. And I think with this, we are closing the session for today, and we hope that we will hear from you soon.
Yeah. And the event today, TEDx GloCha event today, is a three-part event. One was this presentation part. The next part is you are invited to join the global launch of the TED Countdown event with film celebrities, with UN Secretary General, youth climate action leaders, and many more. And from 7 p.m. Central European summertime, we are organizing informal networking possibility for those who would like to join. At 7 o'clock, it's in the Slovenian language. At 8 o'clock, it's in German language. And at 9 o'clock, it's in English. And everyone kindly invited to connect and to talk about your impressions of today's event, your additional ideas, and how we can work together. So with this, servus, srečno, ciao. That's the saying goodbye in our local languages here.